좋은 일이 생길 거.
Hey guys, back at Channel 2 Movie. Thanks for clicking on my video. May you be given abundant health and sustenance. In this video, this time, I will bring the flow of Korean dramas, the busyness of the proposal. This drama is about a woman named Sing, who are employees of the company. He works as a researcher in food development. Scene of the day has a best friend named Young-seo Jin. She is a career woman whose family is wealthy. Young-seo Jin is often asked by his family for a blind date with other company heirs. However, Seo-jin never wanted to attend the blind date because she wants to be in a relationship with the man she likes. So Seo-jin always asks for his best friend, Shin Ha-ri, to replace him. There, Shin Ha-ri met a handsome man who caught her attention. That man is Kang Tae-moo, a company CEO who just returned to South Korea. How does the story go? Just get on the plot of the movie. The film begins with a man named Kang Tae-moo. He used to live for 2 years in America and had to return to Korea to run a GoFood company. His grandfather's Tae-moo is a presidential candidate for managing director at the company. At the inauguration event of the new CEO, the employees are very enthusiastic, looking forward to meeting with those CEOs, including the day scene of working in the field of food development. But unfortunately, Tae-moo couldn't come. So he sent a secretary named Ka to attend it. It made his grandfather very upset. Meanwhile, Tae-moo looks go meet with Park Jin-sung, who was playing golf with his friends. With his friends, Nunong Sing Si-chimu explained the purpose of his arrival to fire Mr. Jin-sung from his company because it was proven that he took bribes from contractors and did some fraudulent acts.
회사 일에 너무 무심했나 보네요. 앞으로는 조금 더 신경 쓰려고요.
On the other side, it turns out that day's birthday scene, she received a message from Lee Min-ho to come to his restaurant. Min-ho is a friend and a man she likes. When Tae-moo and Sang-kan were about to go to his room, suddenly they ran into Grandpa, who immediately scolded Tae-moo because Tae-moo cannot be present at the inauguration of the new president-director before. When he got to the room, the grandfather asked Tae-moo to get married because it was the only way for his grandfather's anger to subside. He also arranged a blind date for her.
네, 맞선 같은 거 안 봐요.
아유, 이놈의 자식.
When I got to the restaurant, Shin Ha-ri saw Min-ho, who was walking with the cake. Shin Ha-ri was sure that the cake was for him. He immediately ran over to Min-ho. But when it's close, apparently the cake wasn't for her, but for customers who are celebrating their anniversary. So Shin Ha-ri, who can't stop his steps, directly crashed the cake until it broke. Guilty day. He then apologized to Min-ho, but Min-ho doesn't mind it. Even Min-ho gave away 2 tickets to his favorite singer's concert as a birthday present. In the meantime, Min-ho also asked for a day to go with a guy she likes. But Shin Ha-ri was disappointed because apparently Min-ho didn't realize who the day liked.
축하한다, 신하리. 네가 좋아하는 가수 공연 티켓 어렵게 구한.
The next day, the grandfather who felt angry because Tae-moo fired Park Sing-'s son. Then the grandfather sent Tae-moo back for a blind date. Tae-moo was finally willing to comply with his grandfather's request.
그거 약속도 깨는 마당에 너도 그 정도는 나한테 양.
On the other side, Dae seems confused because he had to pay off his 800,000 won debt immediately, while his salary in the company insufficient to pay off his debt anytime soon. In the afternoon, Shin Ha-ri went out to eat with his friend, Seo-jin. He is the son of modeling group owner. Suddenly, Seo-jin receives a call from his father, who asked her to go on a blind date with a man. But Seo-jin doesn't want an arranged marriage and finally asked Shin Ha-ri for help to take his place. Hearing this, Dae directly refused because he had previously taken his place, where at the time, Shin Ha-ri had to pretend to do an exorcism to make his blind date partner infill and ended their relationship. But this time Seo-jin kept begging him, and he will pay 800,000 won if Shin Ha-ri helps him. Who gets the hope to pay off his debt, finally agreed to Seo-jin's request.
연기해보자, 신하리. 아니,
Shin Ha-ri was ready to date in Seo-jin's place. Then he went to the appointment. But when the Tae-moo came, Shin Ha-ri was fascinated by his good looks, so Shin Ha-ri was determined to end it soon. With a disrespectful attitude, Shin Ha-ri then started introducing himself by exchanging business cards. But after reading his name, Shin Ha-ri was suddenly shocked. Found out that Tae-moo is the new CEO of the company that he works for. Shin Ha-ri, who feels nervous and finally determined to end it. Shin Ha-ri has started acting in such a way that made the guys hate her. But instead of hating him, Tae-moo liked him. Hearing this, Shin Ha-ri increasingly feel frustrated, so he immediately implemented his bad strategy and invited Tae-moo to book a hotel room so that Tae-moo feels infused and leaves him. But instead of going, Tae-moo immediately agreed and instead booked a room for both of them. When Shin Ha-ri is confused about what will happen, suddenly a woman came and immediately pulled her hair. The woman accused him of cheating on her boyfriend. He even shared a picture of his girlfriend was walking with his mistress, which turned out to be the same of Shin Ha-ri when viewed from behind. But the Dae still denied and said that the shirt she was wearing is from this season's newest collection, so that a lot of people will be wearing them. When the woman heard this, he was upset and tried to punch the Dae. But Tae-moo quickly restrains him and protects the Dae. Looking at that thing, Shin Ha-ri suddenly got an idea to take advantage of the moment in order to escape from Tae-moo. Very arrogant. Then, Shin Ha-ri told Tae-moo that she was able to date multiple guys and cheat all he wants.
그럴 게 아니라 남자친구분 단속부터 하시죠. 이 여자분 혼자만.
On my way, Tae-moo was contacted by his grandfather, who immediately inquired about her blind date. Tae-moo replied that he felt fit and intend to marry Soo-jin. It was Sunday.
뭐?
At home. At home, Shin Ha-ri was contacted by he asked him to solve this problem immediately, because Tae-moo is currently planning to marry her. Even Seo-jin has run away from home to avoid family gatherings.
여기에도 결혼하자고 매달리는 거면 100% 니네 집안 보고
The
달려드는
next day, Shin Ha-ri meets Tae-moo, Sang-han, and also her grandpa in the elevator. So Shin Ha-ri had to cover her face so she wouldn't caught by them. But when he was about to leave, Tae-moo suddenly called him because he wanted to return his employee card that had fallen. Shin Ha-ri was surprised and took it without looking back.
신하리 씨?
뭐야? 날 왜 불러?
In the meantime, Sung-han happened to meet who are warning kids not to carry markers in supermarkets. Sung-han was immediately surprised, seeing how gentle Seo-jin is towards little kids. Seo-jin just realized that his wallet and car keys were left in the supermarket, and he decided to go back for it. But instead he met a instantly make Seo-jin immediately fascinated and fall in love at first sight.
존나 잘생겼잖아.
Then Shin Ha-ri came back to Tae-moo and asked her to annul that marriage, because Shin Ha-ri never liked him and has no intention of marrying a man she just met. Tae-moo asked her out on a date 10 times, but Shin Ha-ri still refused. When going home on the road, Shin Ha-ri accidentally met Min, and it makes Shin Ha-ri embarrassed and got in the car to avoid me. But it turned out that the car belonged to Tae-moo, who saw it was surprised. Tae-moo asked why Shin Ha-ri could get in his car, but instead of answering, Shin Ha-ri even pulled the Tae-moo so as not to be seen by Min. Once the situation is deemed safe, Shin Ha-ri then explained that he just wanted to warn Tae so as not to contact her again. Shin Ha-ri also explained the reason why he didn't like because he thinks Tae-moo is similar to ancient animals.
어디가 닮았다는 거야?
The next day, when Yesi was sitting with Shin Ha-ri, Yesi suddenly got a call from Min-ho. Shin Ha-ri was curious about their relationship. Some days ago followed him there. Shin Ha-ri saw Min-ho giving a gift to Yit. So Shin Ha-ri thought Min-ho was dating Yesi.
뭐야? 네. 그래.
On the way to the office, suddenly he met Tae-moo, and Shin Ha-ri quickly turned around and walked away from the team, but accidentally collided with another employee, which caused his sandal to fly and hit Tae-moo on the head. Shin Ha-ri ran away from Tae-moo because he didn't want to be known. Seeing this, Tae-moo immediately ran after him, and finally, Tae-moo managed to stop Shin while covering her face. Shin Ha-ri later apologized for his mistake because it was an accident. Seeing his identity card, Tae-moo immediately realized that Shin Ha-ri is one of his outstanding employees. So he let Shin Ha-ri go back to the office.
시대를 앞서간 아이디어였어요. 지금 나왔으면 딱인데.
In the meantime, when Seo-jin had trouble parking, he accidentally hit the car behind him. Apparently, the car belongs to Seo-jin feels guilt. He then handed over his business card, so Sung-kan realized that the woman in front of him was the real the Tae-moo who knew this. He was so angry that he had been lied to. Tae-moo then asked Seo-jin to bring the dip penny before him. Otherwise, Tae-moo will tell this to his parents, because I'm scared. Seo-jin finally complied with Tae-moo's request.
대갚아주겠어.
The next day, Seo-jin took the day out. She bought clothes and took San to the salon, because today Tae-moo will meet him. But Seo-jin didn't tell this to Shin Ha-ri, and he also lied to have settled his affairs with Tae-moo. In a cafe, it's finally Seo-jin tells him that Tae-moo is actually coming to see him, so apologizing for lying. Seo-jin then left Shin Ha-ri there. But when Shin Ha-ri tried to escape, he suddenly saw Tae-moo walking towards his. Shin Ha-ri discouraged him from leaving. Then quickly, Shin Ha-ri put on the wig given Seo-jin before, and it made the contents of Shin Ha-ri's bag a mess. When Shin Ha-ri takes care of it, Tae-moo suddenly took a coupon to eat Shin Ha-ri's shop. And there Tae-moo finally found out the home address, and Sanhara's family owned the place of business because his cover was blown. Finally, Shin-Ha-ri apologized to and promised to do anything if the Tae-moo needed his help. When Tae-moo asked his name, Shin-Ha-ri answered his names. He deliberately lied for fear of being fired from his company.
하면 그땐 내가
When he got to Tae-moo's house and told his grandfather that he canceled his wedding, and Tae-moo also asked his grandfather not to talk about wedding again, so that Tae-moo, led saying, had gotten back together with her
다시
ex-boyfriend.
만나게 됐으니까
Because you have no choice. Tae-moo finally asks Shin-Ha-ri to pretend to be his girlfriend. Tae-moo even paid him double than Sun received the day before.
배로 줄게요.
But Shin-Ha-ri refused because he wanted to deal further with his own president director. Because Tae-moo was constantly under pressure from his grandfather, he finally visited the Sunday house and forced her to accede to the request. Tae-moo then brought a letter containing the agreement, which states that if Shin-Ha-ri violates that agreement, then he has to pay a 100 times fine. Then, not for long, suddenly Shin-Ha-ri's younger brother named Hamim came, and when Shin-Ha-ri saw it, he accidentally pushed the Tae-moo down. And that's where the romantic events happen. At that time, Shin-Ha-ri finally agreed to the agreement. Sung-han then set up a Tae-moo profile from childhood until now. He also prepared false information about Shin-Ha-ri's background. Tae-moo asked Shin-Ha-ri to remember all the information because I'm seeing his grandfather next week.
알았습니다. 알겠습니까?
In the meantime, in the office, Boo Yoo-e said that Tae-moo scolded him for not find out in advance the background of the chef he chooses. Boo Yoo-e and her team were forced to find another chef to replace her. Hearing that, Shin-Ha-ri immediately suggested that Min-ho work there, not just because she's a good cook, but also because he's young and is famous among women.
내일 추천서 올릴 수 있게 준비 좀 해봐봐. 네, 알겠습니다.
One day, Tae-moo tells his grandfather that his girlfriend named Se. When Grandpa hears about it, he was happy because his name was the same. Exactly the character in his favorite movie. Tae-moo, who happened to watch the drama, dissolved in the storyline. Because it happened exactly the same with what happened to Shin-Ha-ri and Tae-moo. Now, while in the office, Shin-Ha-ri had finished his proposal and submitted it to Boo Yoo-e. Mrs. Yoo-e then asked. Shin-Ha-ri presented the proposal to Mrs. Yoo-e reasoned that the explanation would be easy to understand, because Min-ho is Shin-Ha-ri's friend, despite initially refusing to. Shin-Ha-ri decided to present it by using a mask and glasses. The goal is that Tae-moo doesn't recognize him. When Tae-moo asked Shin-Ha-ri to take off his mask, Shin-Ha-ri also claimed to be catching a cold, so Tae-moo told Shin-Ha-ri to keep his mask on. When you get home from work, Shin-Ha-ri go to Restaurant Min-ho to announce the results of his presentation, where Tae-moo agrees to hire Min-ho as a chef in his company. But when I got there, Shin-Ha-ri was surprised to see me was making out with his ex-girlfriend, so Shin-Ha-ri left there. On the way, a man suddenly hit Shin-Ha-ri and scattered the documents. Then it wasn't long before Tae-moo contacted him. But when he was about to answer the phone, Shin-Ha-ri accidentally dropped his phone into the sewer. With a sad feeling, Shin-Ha-ri finally cried. then clean up the scattered documents. Sun can see the man she likes. Re-establish with her ex-boyfriend, Tae-moo, who heard the day cry. He felt worried. At the same time curious about what really happened. The next day Tae-moo picked up Shin Ha-ri to meet his grandfather, and Tae-moo was relieved that Shin Ha-ri was fine.
이런 반가워요.
When he got there, Shin Ha-ri began to get acquainted with his grandfather. Shin Ha-ri then began to tell about the background of Tae and himself. Initially everything went good. But when Shin Ha-ri told me about him, who dared to brave the rain to come see him, Tae-moo looks uncomfortable. So Tae-moo immediately changed the conversation. One day, Se-jeong, who had gotten his new apartment, he is busy taking care of everything he needs. Sang-han, who doesn't know that his new neighbor is, he started nagging because his neighbors were noisy. After we're done eating, the grandfather began to like Shin Ha-ri and invited her to eat steamed buns as their dessert. The grandfather apologized for his first impression. The grandfather confessed he paid too much attention to San's appearance, which he thought was too much. But after talking for a while, the grandfather finally realized that Shin Ha-ri is a courteous and jolly woman. So the grandfather decided to leave the Tae-moo to him. Because I believe in Shin Ha-ri. Hearing this, Sunday was instantly shocked and accidentally dropped the bag. The grandfather accidentally saw 2 concert tickets belonging to the date, then asked Tae-moo to leave for the concert at this in the apartment. When Se-jeong was about to have lunch, suddenly he was surprised when a cockroach appeared under the newspaper. Se-jeong immediately came out and jumped towards the which at that time was just passing by. Sang-han, who saw Se-jeong, was scared. He immediately went to kill the cockroach. Once it's done, Sang-han immediately said goodbye, but Se-jeong stopped it and invited Sang-han to make further friends. Hearing that, Sang-han directly refused by saying don't want to. Friends with the guy that made the Tae-moo trouble it? Tae-moo and Shin Ha-ri were also seen watching the concert together. After the artist sings some songs, and apparently, today there's gonna be a song request session where the artist will choose a letter of his many fans. When his letter of choice was read out, Sundays finally realized that the letter was written Min-ho for him. The letter contained happy birthday wishes and gratitude for her 7 years of friendship. When the song starts playing, Shin Ha-ri started crying, remembering his memories with Min. So, Tae-moo gave Shin Ha-ri a tissue. After watching the concert, Tae-moo began to allude to the day's relationship with a male friend, but Shin Ha-ri claimed now relieved. After finding out his friend had returned to romance with his ex-girlfriend, so he doesn't have to express his feelings first and would have been rejected. When suddenly, Tae-moo heard the stomach of the day growling, Tae-moo then invited Shin Ha-ri to eat tteokbokki together. Not long after, Shin Ha-ri received a call from his father, so he moved away to answer the phone. But suddenly a ball was thrown and hit Shin Ha-ri's side. Then the Tae-moos immediately gave ice to compress his eyes.
규빈 씨, 조심해요.
The next day, Shin Ha-ri happened to meet Tae-moo and Sang-gun in the elevator, but Tae-moo was still unaware that Shin Ha-ri and Rami are the same person. Tae-moo who told Sung-hoon if the meeting would be postponed, so he decided to participate. Sampling his new product, Tae-moo immediately tried the cookie Min-ho, which is why kimchi, revel, and according to him, very suitable as a new menu. At night, San last day went to Minho's restaurant to eat and chat together. Sojin, who was outside the restaurant, happened to see Tae-moo and Sang-han about to enter the restaurant. Sojin immediately called Shin Ha-ri to tell him about it. But unfortunately, Shin Ha-ri didn't answer Sojin's phone because it was in the bathroom. When Shin Ha-ri returns, he was surprised to see Tae-moo already with Min, and Shin Ha-ri immediately crawled away from the place. The next day, when we're having breakfast together, Grandpa, who saw Sung-han's phone, now instantly knowing that today represents the year 1 of Tae-moo and him, the grandfather immediately told Sung-han to clear the Tae-moo schedule and replaced it with promises with him. In the meantime, on the other side, Sunday arrived in Namha to film with his team. They're gonna promote his new product. Sunday saw the grandfather He tried to hide his face. But, baby, the day's cell phone was placed near the grandfather, suddenly rang, so that Mrs. Yui immediately called Shin Ha-ri to pick it up. San last day took his phone without showing his face. So the grandfather thought Shin Ha-ri was an impolite person. Shin Ha-ri, who realized that the call was from Tae-moo, he then called her again. Apparently Tae-moo just wanted to remind Shin that today is their 1-year anniversary. Even though the celebration is fake, Tae-moo invited Shin Ha-ri dinner. Shin Ha-ri immediately refused because he was on duty outside. In the meantime, the grandfather, who felt a stomachache, she went straight to the toilet, but Sundays are still inside. Panicked when he found out that his grandfather is outside the toilet, then Shin Ha-ri decided not to get out of there. But when the grandfather tried to break down the bathroom door, and he lost his balance. When Shin Ha-ri suddenly was about to open the door, therefore, the grandfather immediately fell into a bucket of water. The next day, Tae-moo took Sen to a special place because today is their anniversary. But before going to the location, Tae-moo asked her to go to a clothing store. Shin Ha-ri then tried on some clothes, until finally the Tae-moo choice fell on a white dress, and immediately made Tae-moo fascinated to see the beauty of Sen. When I arrived at the restaurant, Tae-moo began to feel comfortable around Sen, especially when they're discussing food. And Tae-moo thought Shin Ha-ri had good taste. Then Shin Ha-ri went to the bathroom because she felt uncomfortable in his clothes. When I was about to sit down, Shin Ha-ri accidentally dropped his bag. And when Shin Ha-ri tried to pick it up, the clothes that Shin Ha-ri wore were torn because of smallness. Tae-moo, who was aware of that, then scrambled to his feet to close it. And finally, the show went well.
둘, 셋.
After taking Shin Ha-ri home, Tae-moo realized Shin Ha-ri's wallet was left in his car. Then he took the initiative to return it. When I got home, he then contacted him, but no response. Tae-moo suddenly saw Minho coming to the house. Because I was curious, Tae-moo finally decided to look at Shin Ha-ri's wallet, and he was so surprised when Tae-moo finds out the true identity of Sin Rami is San. Tae-moo is finally going and left San's wallet in front of the shop. Arriving at Tae-moo's house, immediately looking for Sunday's data, Tae-moo was annoyed because he had been lied to by his employees. The next day, Tae-moo contacted San and asked to meet at a cafe near Tae-moo's office, hoping Shin Ha-ri said the truth. But Shin Ha-ri kept lying because he didn't know that Tae-moo already knew his true identity. Tae-moo felt very upset. Then he contacted Sang-han and asked him to a meeting with the current development. Shin Ha-ri panicked to hear that and immediately went to his office. When I got there, Tae-moo sees Shin Ha-ri late and asked him to recreate kimchi previously agreed upon. Even Tae-moo also asked Shin Ha-ri to improve the quality and lowered the selling price by 20%. When in the room, Tae-moo told Sun that Shin Rami's original identity was Sun. That's why he was determined to wake Sunday up and acknowledge that he made a terrible mistake. It was then the day that recreated the kimchi revolution and gave the results to Tae-moo. But Tae-moo asked him to recreate the menu again and again, because according to it, that the flavor wasn't up to standard, and it made the day very exhausted. In the meantime, the grandfather came to the company and would see a new product. The old man decided to try it. There he ate with Tae-moo and Sun-hoon. But not long after, Sunday and Min-ho come. And that made Tae-moo feel upset. Shin Ha-ri, who realized that Tae-moo was staring at him, then asked Min-ho to leave there. Meanwhile, Tae-moo contacted Shin Ha-ri and asked him to meet somewhere. Tae-moo asked Shin Ha-ri to come to his company's birthday party. Hearing that, Shin Ha-ri gets confused because he can't disguise himself as Shin Ha-ri and him at the same time and place. And Shin Ha-ri rejected him for various reasons. But Tae-moo said that Shin Ha-ri would be exposed, penalty if you refuse. At that time, Shin Ha-ri was happy because he would get the award as the best development team because his homemade products were a huge success. But suddenly the joy disappeared after Sunday realized that the award will be given along with his office event. So Shin Ha-ri began to imagine if he starts to become two different figures by attending the same events while eating with his team. Shin Ha-ri felt stressed because of the problems he was facing, then decided to calm down by drinking a lot of alcohol. After that, Shin Ha-ri contacted Tae-moo to ask how much penalty he paid, because Shin Ha-ri really couldn't come to his company's event. In the meantime, Shin Ha-ri, who was so drunk that he couldn't keep his balance and fell off the swing. When the Tae-moo heard this, he became concerned about Shin Ha-ri's condition. Then Tae-moo decided to look for some. After walking long enough, Tae-moo finally managed to find Shin Ha-ri asleep in the slide aisle. Shin Ha-ri, who thought the incident was just a dream, then he apologized and admit that Shin Rami is actually Shin Ha-ri. When Tae-moo heard about that, she felt relieved and melted because Tae-moo didn't want himself to get caught. Finally, he left Shin Ha-ri alone. Shin Ha-ri was found by his brother. The next day, Shin Ha-ri, who no longer remembers what happened last night, got a message from Tae-moo, who told him that he would be dismissed as Shin Ha-ri, who does not know the contents of the message, contacted Tae-moo and asked for his explanation. But after the Tae-moo explained that the contract agreement had been completed, Shin Ha-ri was happy because she no longer had to pretending to be him. After that, Shin Ha-ri went to the office happily and astonished his whole team. Not long after, Shin Ha-ri got a call from his grandfather, who invited her to eat together. It made Shin Ha-ri confused. Shin Ha-ri then contacted Tae-moo to ask for a solution. When, in the apartment, Se-jeong finally knew that the decorative lights was given pillows to him. There seems to be a camera set up to record him. Se-jeong, who wanted to call it to the police, but instead he met the man again, and there was a commotion between them. Sang-han, that suddenly came. He was then told that there was a camera mounted on the light, so Sang-han immediately chased him and managed to get him to the police station. When Tae-moo got to a restaurant, then he contacted Sang-han and asked her to come. Sang-han said he was at the police station. When Tae-moo was about to catch up to suddenly Tae-moo saw Shin Ha-ri come in as him. So Tae-moo immediately invited Han-ri to go to the police station and told her that something had happened to Suddenly Tae-moo called him by the name of Han-ri. He immediately felt surprised and stopped in his tracks. Seeing this, Tae-moo finally explained he knew San's true identity. But the situation was so urgent, so he couldn't explain further.
여기서 뭐 하는 겁니까? 일단 갑시다, 신하리 씨.
방금 저더러 뭐라고?
While at the police station, Han-ri helped Se-jeong to testify. Han-ri confirmed that in the video it was her and but because the police found little evidence of the tape, so that the perpetrator will only be sentenced to a fine. So, that things, it makes Se-jeong and Han-ri did not feel satisfied Tae-moo who heard them complain. Finally, Tae-moo asked Sung-han to find out the identity of the culprit. After finding the culprit, Tae-moo then met him and directly fired him from the company he worked for. It turned out that Tae-moo had identified the company where the perpetrator worked to threaten him. So Tae-moo helped the victims and imprisoned the culprit. In the meantime, while in the office, Han-ri continues to avoid but the Tae-moo who did not see the presence of he felt worried. And Tae-moo then tried to go find the Han-ri room, while Tae-moo who saw Han-ri hiding behind the table. So that made Tae-moo feel relieved. He finally found out that Han-ri's condition was fine. While in his room, Tae-moo then told that she loves Han-ri so much. And Tae-moo is actually planning to reveal his feelings for Han-ri. So, the Tae-moo immediately made preparations, including choosing a necklace to give to the day. At that time, the previous day had been contacted by go to the appointment. There, the day carrying a document because he thought Tae-moo would fire him. But when Tae-moo was about to express his feelings, Han-ri suddenly interrupted and apologized for he lied to Tae-moo. Han-ri recently handed in his resignation and listened to his presentation first, so that Tae-moo could reconsider his decision. Han-ri didn't want to be fired from the company, and he was willing to work harder. If only Tae-moo hadn't fired Tae-moo who realized the plan failed, he could only sigh.
제 얘기 먼저 들어주세요.
지금 사표를 내겠다는 겁니까?
The next day, Tae-moo called the Dae to come to his room. There, Tae-moo ripped up San's resignation letter to Dae, right in front of him. And he said that Han-ri would not be fired. So, it makes Han-ri feel happy. Then Tae-moo asked Han-ri to see him after work. Because currently, the Tae-moo is secretly undertaking a new project. After Tae-moo met Han-ri, he went to the cinema to watch it together. Even Tae-moo rented a special studio for the two of them. At first, Han-ri was confused, but after Tae-moo came up with a plausible excuse, eventually Han-ri believed Dae that feels ashamed. He asked permission to go to the toilet. There he met Kevin and Mrs. Yui. Out of curiosity, they ended up following the days of panic. He immediately told Tae-moo to go home. Tae-moo, who came out while crawling, now have to swallow his disappointment because the plan failed for the second time. In the meantime, So-jin, who was waiting for the bus, did not come. Sang-han happened to see and immediately invited her to go home together. But on the road, they were stuck in traffic. So-jin, who can't stand the urge to pee, he decided to get out of the car and find the nearest toilet. When he got to the toilet, So-jin was apparently locked inside the toilet. So-jin could only be silent and resign. But soon, Sung-han came and immediately broke down the toilet door. Until he managed to find So-jin felt very upset because this incident is very embarrassing in front of the person he liked. Right now, Tae-moo, who is confused, should do more to ask for a date. Then he decided to find social media accounts to find out what Han-ri likes, because then Tae-moo could find an excuse to ask her to go together. until he finally saw a post about burgers. And they loved it so much that Tae-moo contacted immediately after the date and asked her to accompany him on the grounds. There are official matters to be done. That time, that day, getting ready to go. Suddenly, he was fascinated by the appearance of Tae-moo, who came to pick him up, but the day soon realized if they're gonna go there to work. Arriving at the destination, Tae-moo took a walk on the beach. There they find a burger truck that very day like. He deliberately called that burger shop to please the day. They then ate together while chatting. Enjoy the beautiful atmosphere of the beach. On the other side, when their day and Tae-moo on the way home, suddenly it was raining heavily. It makes Tae-moo anxious, and he began to remember the events of his childhood. Tae-moo didn't one day knowing this. He ordered the day to get out of his car. After driving quite a distance, Tae-moo finally stopped at the side of the road. Apparently, the cause of her trauma is Tae-moo witnessed the death of her parents in an accident back in the day, and the incident happened in the middle of pouring rain. In the meantime, Shin Ha-ri managed to find a hotel there. He tried to understand why Tae-moo suddenly leaving her in the pouring rain. By the time the rain stops, Tae-moo then returned to the spots where he left the day. But when I got to the location, he did not find the existence of the day there. Tae-moo go, trying to contact the day. But the one who picked up the phone was the hotel receptionist on the other side. When the day goes to reception to grab his charge phone. But suddenly I met Yuri and his friends. They explained that they came to the hotel because Min-ho will do the filming there. I had said before that she had a boyfriend. They asked for the day to introduce their girlfriends. When the day is confused, Tae-moo suddenly came and instantly introduced herself as boyfriend of the day. It made the day surprised. Look at it. Yuri invited them to eat together, but before leaving, Tae-moo apologizes to the day for the previous incident. When the day heard his friends talking about him, she hugged Tae-moo and asked her to keep pretending, become his girlfriend in front of them, because the day doesn't want to be humiliated anymore. Tae-moo, who feel they have a chance to be closer to the day, he agreed immediately. There Tae-moo starts showing his intimacy in front of his friends today. Even Tae-moo treats them expensive food, so that this makes the envy of friends of the day. His friends then curious about the work of the team. Apparently, Tae-moo is the managing director of the company for working days. So it surprised them.
내 여자라는 걸. 오버 아닌데.
남친이 엄청 사랑꾼이다.
하리랑 같은 회사시구나.
아, 그게
글쎄요. 무사히 속한다고 해야 할지.
사장이요?
괜찮아요?
After finishing eating, Tae-moo then said to Yuri that they would be staying at the same place. And when I got to my room, day that feels uncomfortable, and asked Tae-moo to book another room, but Tae-moo immediately refused, with the reason that friends will be suspicious of their status. So forced the day to agree to it. On the other side, Yuri, who looks annoyed because I saw the day of dating a rich man, and not long after that Min-ho came. Yuri immediately told him about it. In the morning, Tae-moo was exercising. He then contacted the day and told him that he had asked the hotel maid to bring a Tae-moo day outfit that asked for the day to wear clothes colored white, just so they look good together. In the meantime, suddenly, the day met Min-ho outside. Min-ho was shocked to hear the news of his relationship with Tae-moo. When the day is trying to say something, but suddenly, Tae-moo came and immediately embraced the day. Tae-moo consciously showed his intimacy in front of Min-ho because he didn't want Min-ho to approach Sun any more days. After breakfast, Tae-moo then took the day and his friends sailing with her grandfather's yacht. Min-ho is curious and wants to know how their relationship started. So Tae-moo then told, I first met Shin Ha-ri. Hearing that, Dae felt goosebumps because what Tae-moo said was so real. Min-ho was going to the bathroom, asked Tae-moo why Tae-moo suddenly chose Dae as his lover, even though their families look completely different. Dae is not a special lady, she was just an employee in his company. Hearing that thing, Tae-moo was angry because Min-ho dared to underestimate the Dae before him, and Tae-moo says that Min-ho only looks at people from equality, even though Tae-moo has never seen someone's low or high, just from wealth. Tae-moo then confirmed that he loved the Dae because for him, Dae is a woman who has endless charm. Back then, Tae-moo didn't overheard the conversation of the Dae and Yuri about sashimi made directly from fish caught Min-ho. Tae-moo then felt encouraged to be better than Min-ho. He immediately invited them to go fishing. And in the end, Tae-moo and Min-ho raced in catching fish. It was the Dae that didn't feel well, then tried to tell but instead he just ignored the Dae. Because Tae-moo didn't want to lose to Min-ho, the Dae that feels like it can't stand it anymore. Eventually he started falling, and Min-ho who saw him and helped him up. But Tae-moo does not want the Dae to be near Min until he pulled her and immediately took the Dae away to the hospital. While on the go, it seems that Tae-moo was very concerned about his condition today. He even refused all work calls to accompany the Dae. In the meantime, Sung-han suddenly remembered his encounter with Soo, and Sung-han confessed that he was actually in love with Soo. When they first met, when Tae-moo drives the Dae home, days ago apologizing for what happened before, but Tae-moo didn't mind it at all. Tae-moo then apologized for his jealousy of Min-ho, made him not realize Dae seek Tae-moo, then give time to the Dae to reciprocate her feelings.
신하리 씨,
When I get back home, Dae's to not believing that a president director likes it. Even Dae pinched her cheeks to convince herself. The next day, the grandfather suddenly came to Tae-moo's room and immediately scolded her because the grandfather got the news that Tae-moo was with another woman. So the grandfather thought Tae-moo was cheating on him from Tae-moo, who can't be honest yet. Finally, Tae-moo explained that him and Rami had broken up. So he arranged a blind date for after work. Dae and Se-jeong were seen eating together at a restaurant. There, they tell each other their problems, where Se-jeong recounts the events with So, while the Dae tells me if Tae-moo confesses love to him. While in the parking lot, Se-jeong, who saw Sung-han, he then hid to avoid it. But Sung-han found him instead, right there. Sung-han admitted that he liked Se-jeong since he met her at the supermarket, but now the Sung-han will stay away from him. Hearing that, Se-jeong explained that Sung-dam had misunderstood him, because at that time he was very embarrassed.
그게 아니라
그리고 앞으로
Long story short, a week has passed, but Tae-moo has yet to get an answer from Shin Ha-ri. In the meantime, busy day filming with Min-ho, who accidentally saw them together. She's feeling very upset now, but she couldn't do anything because filming was still going on. After the filming was done, Tae-moo went straight to the date to get the answer. But Sung-han suddenly came and told him that the grandfather had come, so that Tae-moo immediately brought the Dae to hide. Fortunately, their hiding was unknown to the grandfather. Tae-moo, who can't wait to hear the answer from the Dae and ask her right away. However, Dae felt it was inappropriate to be next to In the end, Dae decided to reject him. heard about that, Tae-moo didn't give up. He will continue to express his feelings until the day you truly want to receive it. Ever since the incident, Tae, feeling burdened by this, he would start complaining about all the actions that Tae-moo did, and people would start making assumptions about him. But Tae-moo still convinced him that it will never happen, because Tae-moo promised to continue to protect the day. Hearing that, Tae suddenly kissing Tae-moo. Tae-moo thought the kiss was a response to his feelings, but the Tae thought the kiss was just a mistake and asked Tae-moo to forget about it. And the Tae knew she wasn't supposed to. The next day, Mrs. Yui and other friends were watching a Tae filming video with Minho. Apparently, the audience reaction was very positive, because the Tae with Minho indirectly explained that all of the company's food products do not contain chemicals. And that's what makes the audience give a lot of praise. At that time, Tae-moo was donation for cancer treatment in the hospital. Suddenly, he was approached by a woman from the Marine group, who is none other than his aunt. So there his aunt praised Tae-moo's performance and regretted his failure with So. But her aunt thinks Tae-moo doesn't have a partner yet, so he plans to match up with his son named Jo. In the meantime, when it comes home, Tae-moo and Tae talking about the previous kiss, even though the kiss was just a mistake. But the Tae-moo won't accept it, because according to the days that first started the kiss, so Tae-moo asked Shin Ha-ri to pay for the kiss by treating her to dinner. Tae-moo deliberately took the Tae to an Mahal restaurant. There the Tae can only see the Tae-moo who is eating. Tae that originally only saw Tae-moo eat. I finally decided to eat too, but he couldn't enjoy it. When you think of a very expensive bill, suddenly the Tae felt confused. She asked permission to go to the toilet for a while. When you come back, the Tae that saw Tae-moo playing the piano so beautifully, so the Tae is so blown away. When the Tae is trying to pay the bill, she was suddenly shocked. Found out that Tae-moo had paid all. Tae-moo then asked for the Tae to treat him somewhere else. Only, in the meantime, Sung-hen, who wants to persuade. Then he climbed the mountain. Even Sung-hen prepared shoes for him. Sung-hen, who saw So-jin, exhausted. Then he told him to rest and give him a drink, while telling a story. Sung-han told him that he often climbs mountains with Tae-moo. Hearing this, So-jin immediately emotional and start bad-mouthing the Tae-moo that always oppresses the Tae. But Sung-han continued to defend Tae because assuming Tae-moo wasn't a bad person, so it makes So-jin even more emotional. Tae-moo that forbids the Tae to treat himself. He invited the Tae to eat grilled sausage with him, Tae-moo told. He had eaten grilled sausage in this place with his parents. When he was a child, Tae-moo smiled and thanked him on the Tae, because the Tae has become a figure he believes in. To tell me about his parents, because Tae-moo is very difficult to tell about his parents to other people, even to his own grandfather. It was So-jin who could not hold back her anger. So-jin finally decided to get off the mountain. So-jin suddenly fell and dislocated his leg. Sung-han, who saw this thing, she immediately carried So-jin and brought him down. She immediately carried So-jin and bring him down. When resting, Piarua Kavia, Sung-han then apologized if his words annoyed and Sung-han promised, won't do it again. So-jin, who felt touched, he finally realized that Sung-han was a real man, because Sung-han never complains, despite So-jin naging all the way. That time we were shown that Shin Ha-ri was told both parents are in the hospital. days ago went to go to her. It turned out that his mother had burns on her hands, and her dad had acute appendicitis and just had surgery. But because there are no empty rooms, so the father had to be left in it. Not long after, a nurse comes in and tells if his father would be moved to the VIP room. It turns out the guy who did it was but because they could not introduce Tae-moo as the director, and ended up lying by saying that Tae-moo was his partner named Kevin. In the meantime, Min-ho, who was about to clean up the broken plate, accidentally hurt his hand. So the Hamim, who saw it, then told Min-ho to take medicine in his room. There Min-ho found a document containing a contract agreement between the Dae and East. So he concluded that the two are pretending to be lovers. Then Min-ho, who saw Tae-moo drive the Dae home, suddenly Min-ho immediately hit him. Min-ho even asked Tae-moo to leave his life. The Daes that feel upset because Min-ho keeps demonizing Then he said that it was none of Min-ho's business, and they also asked Min-ho to apologize to Tae-moo immediately for what he did. The next day, Tae-moo, who finds out that Sung-han and Seo-jin have been dating, so that thing upset Tae-moo, because during this time Sang-han never told it to Tae-moo. Hearing that, Sang-han apologized and told that Sung-han feels bad because previously ever scheduled to date Tae-moo. When he arrived at his room, Tae-moo saw his grandfather waiting for him there. The grandfather asks Tae-moo to go on a blind date with Yo. Then we are shown with the Dae that was representing his team doing the match, but suddenly fell and dislocated his hand. Originally, the Dae wanted to give up because his hand hurt, but after hearing the announcement from the organizing committee, the winner had the opportunity to have dinner with the president-director. Suddenly, he stood up and continued his match. He did it because he was not willing if Tae-moo had to eat alone with another woman. In the end, Dae was able to win those matches. In the meantime, as his team celebrated their victory, Kevin suddenly said that Tae-moo wouldn't come here because she had to went to Koryo Hotel for a blind date with another woman. When the Dae hears this, he instantly felt so jealous. Days ago, contacted Tae-moo and asked Tae-moo to stop blind dates again immediately. He finally admitted that he loved Tae-moo, so the Dae feels unacceptable if the Tae-moo has stopped dating other women. Hearing that, Tae-moo smiled. He told me he was in front of the house today.
여보세요?
나 지금 시나리 씨 집 앞입니다.
That time, the Dae directly asked his driver to turn around. Same with Tae-moo. But suddenly, they were stuck in traffic. So they both got out of the car and met at the place. They confessed their feelings for each other, and a very romantic moment ensued. In the meantime, it turned out that Sang-han replaced Tae-moo to meet Ye-jeong at the Koryo Hotel. There Sang-han then introduced himself and tell if Tae-moo can go on a blind date. And Sang-han also tells if Tae-moo has a lover and was about to get married. The next day, they got a call from Tae-moo informing if now he is in front of his house. Tae-moo admits to missing the date, so he wants to take a date before going to work. Hearing that, Dae was very happy. When I got to the restaurant, the Dae was so excited to try the food until the spoon he was holding fell. Tae-moo is trying to help pick it up. He accidentally saw a different Dae shoe next door, and that thing made the Dae very embarrassed. As soon as I got to the office, Tae-moo immediately asked Sang-han to buy shoes for the Dae. And not long after, a courier came and dropping off packages for the Dae. And the courier said the package was delivered by his girlfriend today. That made all his co-workers curious. there a day that cannot yet explain the truth. He then said that the package was from Soo. In the meantime, Sang-han suddenly gets message from Yo-jung because that night Yo-jung actually liked Soo because he is a man who fits her criteria perfectly, though Sang-han has declined and says that he already has boyfriend, yet Yo-jung doesn't care and still tries to approach him. At that time, Se-jeong tells Yo-jung that she is currently dating with a man. But Yo-jung, who doesn't want to lose the Soo, said the same thing, so that the mother, who overhears it, feel happy and start assuming if Yo-jung manages to get close to T. Then after that, the mother went somewhere to see her grandfather T. There he proposed to marry them off, before the rumors spread further. Min-ho, who met the day at the office, then he apologizes for any previous mistakes. Min-ho said that he did it because he was so worried. Min-ho, who asked about his current relationship with Tae-moo, but now he had to swallow his disappointment because the Tae-moo and Dea officially dating without a contract. That day when Min-ho was doing an interview with Shin Ha-ri, a reporter asked him about a gift from the president director. Suddenly the director came and immediately answered the reporter's question. After which Tae-moo invites a day of dinner as a reward for victory. In the previous match, Dae inviting Tae-moo to dinner at his favorite restaurant. That day I knew the shop owner's aunt introduced Tae-moo as her boyfriend. That's when Yo-jung came to the company. There he meets up with Sang-han and Tae-moo, where he explained to Tae that she had fallen in love with Sa, who represented her on a blind date, and the grandfather, who happened to hear this, was immediately disappointed. On the last day that just came out of the toilet, she accidentally saw Mrs. Yui and Kevin Kwa. When Mrs. Yui followed Kevin to the toilet, the man immediately warned Mrs. Yui to come out, but Mrs. Yui accidentally hit the Dae until she fell. While the Dae was trying to pick up his shoe that had come off, suddenly the Dae heard the voice of the grandfather, who was about to enter the toilet. Then the Dae quickly walked into one of the cubicles. Tae-moo, who realizes if the Dae is inside. Tae-moo then asked the grandfather to find another toilet, but the grandfather refused and started knocking on the door, telling the person inside to come out. A Dae that has no other choice. Finally, the Dae came out and apologized to the grandfather. The day I felt guilty for my grandfather, he decided to write a letter of apology. After reading the letter, Tae-moo's grandfather told Tae-moo that he no longer wanted to have anything to do with the Dae. So the Tae-moo thinks how to do with the Dae. When the Dae comes home from work, Boo Yui and the others invited the Dae to dinner together, and when I was about to get on the elevator, he met with Tae-moo and immediately joined them. There, Yesi, who was already very drunk, accidentally dropped her phone, but when he was about to take it, she saw Tae-moo and Dae holding hands. So Yesi immediately told the others, but Bui and Kevin, who heard this, were in disbelief and thought Yesi was hallucinating due to severe drunkenness. It's Sojin who wants to meet Sa. But suddenly, Yo-jung came to Soo and cried because her love was rejected again. As Sang-han and his mother waited for Sujin's arrival, the mother felt nervous and went to the toilet. Around the same time, Sojin also came with Yo-jung, but there ended up being a misunderstanding between the two. Then Sojin left Sang-han. In the meantime, Dae go visit Sojin at the apartment. There he learns that Sojin broke up with Sa. After Sojin told her the truth happened, he invited her to eat with him. But suddenly, they even saw Tin and Sam-hoon, who is about to go somewhere because you feel suspicious. Eventually, they followed him. When I got to the scene, Sojin was surprised because they both stopped at an orphanage. Sang-han, who saw the arrival of Soo, directly introduced Sojin to his mother as his girlfriend. until the misunderstanding between them was resolved. His mother then told that Sunkan started living in foster care when she was 5 years old. Then Sunghan and Tae-moo got along. When after Tae-moo's parents frequented orphanages to provide assistance. Of that story, Seo-jin finally realized that Sunghan was a very good person. And Seo-jin begins to mend his relationship with Soo. Even Seo-jin asked for us open to each other in their relationship. On the other side, Tae-moo and Dae show their intimacy. They both look very happy and said he would immediately tell everyone about their relationship, especially the grandfather. Dae suddenly got the news that his sister had taken all the money from the cashier of his store, and he immediately went home to check on her. At that time, Tae-moo apologized to Soo because he had asked Sunghan to replace his blind date. But Seo-jin didn't forgive him just like that. He asked for compensation for the condition of forgiving him. Then, the Tae-moo sent something to Seo-jin's phone. In the meantime, when Tae-moo is going home, suddenly the Dae saw Ha-min, and he immediately pulled Tae-moo to hide beside his car. But because Ha-min was amazed to see the luxury cart, instead he continued to circle it. His hideout was discovered by his younger brother. There's finally Tae-moo introduced himself as president, director, and girlfriend. Dae go inside the house. Ha-min promised to keep his relationship a secret from his parents, but Ha-min is afraid. If the Tae-moo family finds out that Dae is from an ordinary family, they will not be able to accept the presence of the Dae. The next day, Sunghan, who saw Seo-jin, did not stop smiling. When he looked at his phone, he came to her. And apparently, Seo-jin was looking at a video of Sunghan being drunk while begging does not want to be decided by Sunghan, who feel ashamed. Then he asked Seo-jin to delete it. But Seo-jin refused because the video recording was a bribe from T. And without them knowing, it turned out that someone was secretly recording their whereabouts. It turns out that the person is the messenger of his father's. So his father knows if Seo-jin dating his secretary Tae-moo and not with Tim at the tavern. Min-ho was told Ha-min if the Dae was to meet Yuri. In the meantime, Yuri, who was drunk, asked for the Dae to leave Min-ho's side. Yuri also mentioned the Dae. I loved Min-ho 7 years ago. And there Yuri also questioned the decision of the Dae, who chose secretly after knowing the affair. Yuri ever did. Min-ho, who got there, he overheard their conversation. So Min-ho feel disappointed to Yuri and tried to apologize to the Dae. After work, they went to go see Tae-moo for a date. But suddenly it rained heavily. So the Dae immediately opened an umbrella to protect them both. Dae realized if Tae-moo was traumatized by rain, then he took her on the train. Suddenly the grandfather called the Dae to see him immediately. There the grandfather confessed. If all this time he knew that the Dae was actually him, Tae-moo who knows that thing. Tae-moo who knows thing. It was from someone. Tae-moo then tried to contact the Dae, but get no answer, and make Tae-moo very worried. When that Tae-moo, who wants to meet the Dae, suddenly on the way, Tae-moo had an accident. Because at that time, he avoided food delivery motorcycle on the other side. The Dae to explain everything to the grandfather, but the Dae got rejected. But not for long. The grandfather was contacted by if Tae-moo had an accident, and it made the grandfather very panicked. After the grandfather received the news, she went straight to the hospital. The grandfather looked very worried because he didn't want his grandson to experience the same incident like Tae-moo's parents. But fortunately, Tae-moo only suffered an injury on his hand. While in the infirmary, the grandfather asked Tae-moo to stop contacting the Dae because he didn't want if Tae-moo was dating his own employees. Hearing this, the Tae-moo agreed to it. But in return, he said he would not marry anyone. And not even Tae-moo will ever love any woman other than the date. When he got to the hospital, there, Ha-ri saw Tae-moo sitting while staring. Rain Tae-moo, thanks the day for relieving the trauma so far. Tae-moo told me that the accident happened to his parents was caused by him, where at that time, Tae-moo, who is having a birthday, 2, went to the playground with her parents. But they left because of work. But Tae-moo always calls him to come home soon. While on the way, Tae-moo parents who didn't want to upset their child, they then accelerated the car. But baby, they had an accident and died on the spot. At the time of the day, asked Tae-moo not to blame himself again, because the day Shu, his parents really want Tae-moo to live a happy life. The next day, Se-jeong tells the day that Yuri spread false rumors about him, where Yuri uploaded photos of the day and unright if the day has doubled Minho, and also the grandfather had seen the news. Then he plans to move the Tae-moo to America for 2 years, but Tae-moo rejected it and said if he didn't, 2, partying with the day. It was the day he was in the lab with his team. Suddenly, the grandfather wanted to meet him. Apparently, the grandfather asked for the day to move to the factory day, John, and if the day refuses, they had to resign from the Tae-moo company. Knowing that thing, he was very disappointed with his grandfather's decision. At night, when Se-jeong and Seung-kan ate with Se-jeong's father there, his father showed a very different attitude than usual. He became very friendly and seemed to approve of the relationship between Se-jeong and Seung-kan. But Se-jeong was suspicious of the change in his father's attitude. But Seung-kan asked Se-jeong to always think positively. On the way home, Seung-kan suddenly stopped his car on the side of the road. He then knelt in front of Se-jeong and showed him a ring that he had prepared to propose to. At that time, Tae-moo managed to find the existence of the day. There, Tae-moo immediately hugged her and advised the day not to disappear without a word. There, Tae-moo then take the day to the hotel to spend the night together. The next day, Seung-han suddenly received a call from Se-jeong's dad, where it asked Seung-han to stay away from Se-jeong, who heard it. He was immediately angry and went to see his father. There, Se-jeong submitted his resignation to the company because he wanted to prove to his father that he could run his own business without his father's help. On the other side, their parents already know their child's relationship with him. Now I'm worried if the Tae-moo family can't accept it, because he thought the day was just an ordinary employee in the company. Hearing that thing, Tae-moo tried to ensure that he would get his grandfather's blessing. And Tae-moo even convinced them that everything will be alright. And unexpectedly, Tae-moo also asked them for permission to marry to Shin Ha-ri. Tae-moo contacted someone if the grandfather fainted and is currently in Tae-moo hospital feeling concerned. He also plans to go see her, but suddenly he heard the laughter of his grandfather, and it turned out that his grandfather was fine. He deliberately pretended to be sick to keep Tae-moo away from him. Tae-moo, who heard this, was very angry, but the day soon calmed him down. Days later, asked Tae-moo for permission to meet his grandfather, to be closer like when it becomes hemp. When the grandfather looks very bored, because the awaited grandson not coming. But soon, the day came with a book and a change of clothes for his grandfather. There, the day said if that Tae-moo was attending an important meeting and haven't been able to come to see Grandpa, even though the grandfather kept nagging him. But today still take care of the grandfather very well. In the meantime, Se-jeong tells Seung-kan that he has quit his company, and Se-jeong plans to start his own business. After hearing this, Seung-han then handed over his savings book and became his first investor. The day that still accompanied his grandfather in the hospital, now keep trying to get close to her. even though the grandfather had melted with the treatment of the Dae. But when the grandfather realized that his relationship was getting closer, the grandfather then returned to ignore the Dae. Back then, the Dae told the team that it was very difficult to conquer the grandfather. But the Tae-moo assured him that the Dae could take it slowly. Not long after, the doctor came in and told that the grandfather's condition is deteriorating, where right now the ring on his heart is broken, as well as entering his veins. So the grandfather had to undergo surgery again, to save his life. At night, Tae-moo tells the Dae that the grandfather should be brought to America to undergo treatment. So the Tae-moo asked for the Dae to keep him company. But the Dae refused because he was afraid that new gossip would appear, which would have made Tae-moo feel uncomfortable. Tae-moo that can be far from the Dae, but the Dae convinced him that they will always keep their relationship. Long story short, 1 year have passed, and now there's a team change in co-workers today, where Kevin has risen to the rank of section chief. On the other side, So-jin, who used to want to build his own company, have now managed to realize, and all that on the support of In the meantime, Daes, who are still in a long-distance relationship with Tim, now he can only make a video call to release his longing. In the morning, Haim woke up the Dae and told her that on the internet rumors have surfaced. If the Tae-moo is close to a jealous, so that the Dae that feels jealous, he immediately followed Tae-moo to America. But when the Dae was about to put his suitcase in the trunk of a taxi, suddenly Tae-moo showed up to meet the Dae, and it turns out that Tae-moo intentionally returned to Korea without telling the Dae. To surprise him, Tae-moo then explained the news on the internet. That's not true. In the meantime, the grandfather who has blessed the relationship Dae and Tae-moo then proposes the Dae with a ring that has been prepared. And their romantic moments look so beautiful, with so many cherry blossoms falling down.
반지 꼈잖아요. 그럼 된 거죠.